Good morning. I'm Teeny Wilson. I was born Aurelia Wilson. Um, this is probably the hardest video that I've ever had to record outside of my living wills videos for my kids. Me and my daughter are about to embark on something that just scares me to death. I've been wanting to do it for a while now. Talk more in depth about mental health and my mental health journey. And, I share my cancer journey with you guys, and I do talk about mental health, do posts and stuff like that, but I feel like it's really not enough. God had laid on my heart years and years ago when I was in an abusive relationship, and I had to go to a shelter for abused women and children, to start my own charity. I'm heavy into charity, as you may know if you follow me, but I want to start a charity, or I wanted to work on a charity, because I do work in charity, but not really with abused women and children, because of my situation. If you haven't read my book, because nobody loved me, I'm in the middle of writing the second book. I literally had wrote the book, but it's just like with the first book, it's like this. The devil is really busy. The book was stolen during a robbery when I was not around, but I'm gonna do a podcast with my youngest daughter, Nico the Don. I don't know if any of you remember her, but we used to post all the time together before she moved to South Dakota. But and I know some of you thought that was my sister, but that's my youngest daughter. I have two daughters, Juju Beans and Nico the Don. I wanted to let you guys know that, not only are we going to be doing, I'm sorry, this cancer, I can't swallow my phlegm, a very revealing, I'm talking about, I cried before I even got ready to do this video, because it's gonna pull at your heartstrings, this podcast, because I want to touch bases on relationships, child abuse, just all kinds of parenthood, all kinds of situations, and mostly centering around incest and the secrets that we keep in families, black and white families, all kinds of families, keep these secrets, and how it affects people when they grow up, and as they're growing up. And a lot of times we feel like, when you're in a bad marriage, that your bad marriage doesn't affect your kids. But it really, really does. If you have not read the first book, I literally have had several companies, get at me about, trying to get the book, and I did not, sell my rights, and I have not republished the book. My first book is published. It's pretty much everywhere, Amazon, ebooks, all that. But because this second book, portrayed to be what I was, the person that I was made to be, I ran with Jamaican Mafia for like years, and I found my sister Coochie there. She ended up doing like I think 5-10 years in the feds. I went on a run for like 15 years. True story. My story is true. The whole story is true. But I have been sitting down for some time. God gave me some space to write, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this second book out there. I've had several people say, "Oh, when are you gonna write the second book?" Or is it a next part to the book? Yes, it's the next part to the book. Yes, I'm gonna write a second book. I actually have tried. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me, but I'm definitely gonna write it, and nothing really had triggered this, but something has really triggered this fire in me as of late. My birth mother, who worthless woman, basically, didn't see any value in me as her child. I was abandoned with my grandmother. She, when she was made to come get me, I was made to feel like I was the problem, you know what I'm saying? And all the problems they had, I was, the problem, which is a joke, but you got to get that first book, because I'm going to talk about it a lot. I'm going to talk about it a lot. Me and Nico had went over the other day the first, podcast, and it's about rape. We both have been raped. My story is a lot different from her story. I'll let her tell you her story in the podcast, but the way that we deal with situations a lot of times have a lot to do with, where we come from, how we're brought up, it's just, everything's so secretive all the time. It's disgusting. It really, really is. And the people who stand around and watch, children be abused, they're disgusting also. Terrible people. Pray, that God forgives you, because you're just as bad as the people who, abusing, children. So I just, what triggered this, I just want to say this, because a lot of times I'll have, I guess one might think is an outburst, or I'll, rear to the left, and people like, what's going on, because I don't share a lot of me. I don't share a lot of me. I have a lot to share, but I don't, and it's not because I've been scared. It's mostly, because I'm a quiet person. I've always been, quiet and to myself. And I know a lot of people, like my cousins, they said, "Oh, well, we thought you were just an angry child." No, I was a hurt child. I wasn't angry. I was a scared, lonely, like most abused children, what I'm saying? I was just quiet and to myself, and living a life that I was, living or being brought up, in church. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't want, it's not coming down my face during the video, but I was brought up so, basically, sheltered, like, I wasn't even really allowed to have friends. So my social skills were on zero by the time I got ready to get married. I married my first boyfriend because, we were friends at the time. That was my best friend. I married my best friend, my high school sweetheart. Who turned out to be my stepdad, and that's, a lot of us turn out to be our parents. A lot of us turn out to, to be better, you know, and that's what I wanted for my kids. I just wanted them to be better, you know, than I was. A lot of people felt like, oh, you know, well, you know, this and this and that, but definitely gonna set the record straight, you know, in a lot of different ways with this podcast. And you know, I hope you guys join me, you know what I'm saying, you know, because you know, things could have been the other way. You know, I'm so thankful to God, you know what I'm saying, that I did have, you know, a foundation. My grandma Pearl, you know what I'm saying, she stayed in church, and, you know, I had a great foundation, you know. So I feel like that's the only thing that saved me. I feel like from the beginning I couldn't see it necessarily, you know, all during my life. But now I can see the devil, you know, for what he is, you know, pretty much all the time. You know, since I had this cancer, you know, I've had the devil attack me bad, you know. You know, and recently my birth mother contacted my son once again, one of my children, with her manipulating self. You know, I've been sick. I was born sick. I was born premature. I was born with breathing issues. I was born bronchitis. I don't have a lot of memories of my birth mother because she was never there, but one of the things I do remember a lot of hospitals. You know, I was in the emergency room all the time. I had a lot of things going on with me. I do remember having a lot of health issues, you know, even into my teen years. And now that I'm getting older, you know what I'm saying, I have, you know, a lot of issues. By the time I had to leave these people alone, by the time I was in my 20s, I literally had signs of a stroke. You know, I was dealing with hypertension. They were killing me, you know, literally, you know, with the abuse and the mental manipulation, and making it so that they were my only, you know, people, my only family, because they even kept me away from family members, you know what I'm saying? You know, like most abusers, you know, they isolated me, you know. So you know, I don't want anybody to feel like, you know, oh, this is a, you know, she did a tell-all book, you know, to try to get money. That's never what my book was about. My book was always have been about, you know, my testimony. It was a therapy for me. I've been in therapy for years. I'm currently in therapy for, I'm sorry. I just got a lot of I'm currently in therapy for my son passed away, as most of you know. My last mate, Vicious, passed away, and my dad passed away earlier this year. So, you know, and death has always been really hard for me. Not a whole lot of people that I know had passed away, you know what I'm saying, when I was younger. I seen a lot of death, you know. My step family has a lot of, excuse me. I'm sorry. I cried a lot before I did this video, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying not to cry, but I can't help myself, you know. I wrote my book, like I said, for therapy, you know, and not just therapy for me. I wrote it for therapy for other women, you know what I'm saying, that, you know, who needed it. Because by the time I had, you know, got into my first marriage, I already felt like I already had a bad marriage, you know, from my childhood. So, you know, I just wasn't willing to even work on my marriage, you know what I'm saying. I didn't have a whole lot of social, you know, skills, you know, and you know, my main thing during that marriage was like, get away from this man, because, you know, he's like, you know, the rest of them just trying to hurt you, you know. So like I said, I'm sorry I keep reading off, but I got a lot going on. Denise Edwards, I would appreciate if you stop trying to manipulate my children, you know what I'm saying. That's one of the main reasons I made this video. Andre, Angel, none of my kids, because I've never, just like with their dads, I never sat down and said, oh, he did this to me, he did that to me, because I'm not that type of person. I let them sort of kind of see the individual for who they was, just like you. I let them see you for who you are, and that's why nobody really deals with you, because they see you for who you are. Please stop manipulating my children to get into my life. I definitely do not want no relationship with you. Say, God told Reverend Hines, to tell me to leave years ago. A lot of people don't even know that. That's in the last book. The second book. But yeah, I didn't leave because I wanted to leave. I left because God told me to leave. It was so much going on, and these people, have always tried to, hurt me and force me to, I feel like, make bad choices. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they, in my mind, it's like fight or flight, like most people, and I got to the point where I wasn't gonna keep, running away from the situation. I got to the point, even at 14 years old, I was one of the youngest people in Upper Marlboro for trying to kill these people. No, I don't want you in my life. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Like the last time I came to Maryland, you literally lied on me, and you said to the police that, I just came to your house and started something. You're a liar. You're an abuser. And like I told you the last time we had anything to do with each other, I feel like you're the scum of the earth. I don't want anything to do with you. Your husband is a stalker. I just blocked him yesterday from Facebook. And I don't know if that was you looking at me on his Facebook, because I think I blocked you a long time ago. Y'all better leave me alone. Like, serious business, leave me alone. Because at the end of the day, you beat me bad, what I'm saying, mentally, emotionally, physically, what I'm saying, spiritually, like your demons, definitely you're possessed with demons, and no, I don't want nothing to do with you people. I really, I really don't. And I'm not, if you know me, I'm not the type person, I don't hold no grudges. Like I told my daughter, if it's ever a zombie apocalypse, what I'm saying, then definitely, come to the farm. I wouldn't want to see anything happen to anybody. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying, God has given me great peace, because every time I'm talking about, every time I think in depth about, the things that these people have done to me, what I'm saying, and, I can be a whole different person, so leave me in peace. Leave me with the peace that, God gave me, from the hell that you put me through, and let me flourish, because at the end of the day, you showed me, where we at, so many times. You, your husband, your daughter, the way, y'all would, jump on me and, start stuff with me and stuff like that. And, it was never a fair fight, yeah, these people, kid, young, the last conversation I had with her was something like, you're a whore that seduced my father. Child, I left home at 14 years old. If you feel like I seduced your father, you're very confused. Don't you have a sister that's your cousin? The way that y'all, put these people up here, you know what I'm saying, and deal with people that are sick and sadistic like these people. You know, I pray for all y'all, you know what I'm saying, at the end of the day, you know, because everything that we do is gonna be judged, you know what I'm saying. And I feel like, you know, I'm in a good place with God. I'm in a good place, you know, with my family. You know, I found a wonderful man, you know, and I have to explain to him, you know what I'm saying, why I don't have a extended family, you know what I'm saying. I'm sorry. But I can't swallow phlegm. You know, and you know, it's embarrassing, you know, because y'all embarrassing, you know, and I'm not embarrassed, you know, that I was abused. I'm not embarrassed that, you know, definitely, you know, the abuse caused trauma, you know. I had talked to my therapist. We was talking about the grief. I'm in grief counseling, like I said, for my dad, my ex-mate, and my son. You know, but I was talking about, you know, my life before, and he was like, "Oh wow, you know what I'm saying? You probably have a lot of trauma." You know, no, I don't. You know, I really honestly don't. I gave all that to God. You know what I'm saying? I gave it to God, and I pray that you know what I'm saying, give your stuff to God, because I'm not carrying your bag. That's your bag. You're a terrible person. You know, you let your husband, you know, steal, you know, the innocence of a child. You know, both of you two should be prosecuted, you know, and the fact that your daughter feels like that's okay, you know, she's sick, and I hope that her son's children are never, you know, abused, you know. But you know, people are, you know, what they are, you know, and they're gonna show you what they are. You better believe it when they show you.